This is Patriots Playbook.
The legend.
Anybody else feeling pork today? Today's word of the day is porked.
You know me, John. I'm a big RPO guy.
Yep.
I love RPOs. I think they're sexy. All right, I love RPOs.
You were playing football in the backyard, and somebody recovers the loose ball, and everybody says, "Dog pile on Johnny!" Okay, well, guess what? We're dog piling on the Patriots!
Maybe they got a 5-game winning streak coming, and maybe we're going to look back and say, wow, they're 6-4, and they're right back in there.
Andy, hey, maybe pigs will fly, too.
Now, here's your host of Patriots Playbook, John Rook.
All feeling a little bit porked today, I think. Poor Marine.
Big porked Marine is.
He cracked a tooth.
Yeah, he came in yesterday and still did the show and everything, and all of us are like, what are you doing? Like, go to the dentist, dude. Like, I know you fought, in wars and stuff, so I guess, like, a tooth is a tooth, but, like, still.
Yeah, but that's painful.
Yeah.
That's painful. So we're happy to have Faith run the show today. Hi, Faith. So at any rate, so be nice to Faith when you call in on the show today. Because,
or else.
Yes, because that's right. We have to take care of Faith. She's getting the job done today, stepping in into the breach for the Marine. Welcome into the playbook. We got Buffalo game week here. We'll be joined shortly by Vic Carucci, longtime Buffalo Bills observer, NFL reporter. Currently does things for a couple of different entities, one of which would be WGRZ in Buffalo. But Vic's been a friend of the show for 22 years that we've done it. He's been, with us, I think, in some form or fashion every season, talking about either NFL in general or talking specifically about the Bills, because that's been his team of note. Karen Guregian, who covers the Patriots, she's been a friend of the show for a number of years as well, currently with Mass Live. Karen will join us, and so will Russell Baxter to go through Week 7 around the NFL. But, as it now stands, Evan, with this team at 1-5 after what we saw this past week, I'm not sure anything really moved the needle. Did it this past weekend? The one thing that let me begin by saying the one overwhelming recollection, memory, what if that I have from Sunday in Vegas was Devontae Parker's drop ball.
Yeah.
Because as bad as it's been, he catches that pass. The Patriots probably kick a field goal to win the game.
Maybe.
Well, yeah, okay, maybe.
So
but they're in position to do that.
Yeah.
As bad as it's been.
Yeah, I think that it's funny because I remember in Week 1 against the Eagles, Paul, Mike, and Fred and I are sitting in the press box watching the game, in real time live, and they got the ball back when Jabril Peppers forced that fumble on Jalen Hurts, and it was like they forced it at I think like the plus 40 or plus 45, like they were in on the Eagles side of the field, like the turnover was on the Eagles side of the field,
yeah,
and all of them said they're going to win this game, and I'm not like saying this to toot my own horn, I've seen this team lose in so many spots where I felt like they were going to pull it out.
Kiss of death, right?
The
thought of death.
The game in Week 1 last year, games against like Cincinnati, right? Where they're right on the doorstep and they're literally at like the 10-yard line against the Bengals to score the game-winning touchdown, and Ramondre Stevenson fumbles the ball on a handoff. Things like that, and this team, and I thought Bill O'Brien put it perfectly, there's like 6 or 7 plays, he said, that decide most football games. Like,
right.
We're not talking about the games like Dallas and New Orleans where you get blown out. We're talking about games like Vegas. There's 6 or 7 plays in a game that usually decide those games. And right now the Patriots are not making the winning plays late in those games.
Nope.
And if they had done it, Miami's another example where they're driving with the football, and who was it? Gesicki flips it to Cole Strange on 4th down, and he stopped like an inch short of the first down marker, and on 4th down, excuse me, and the first down marker, and that Eagles game, that Dolphins game, this game in Vegas, with the ball and 2 minutes to go and a chance to take the lead.
Yep.
These were games that they used to win, and they don't win them anymore.
Nope.
And until they start winning some of these closer games, when they do have a chance to win the ball game, then they're not going anywhere.
So what I have to ask then, I guess, as a follow-up to that would be, have you been able to decipher, and you and I, we've gone back and forth about this, and, fans have their own, ideas about the root cause of all this stuff. Is the fact that they're not able to overcome the things that they used to do. To whom do we attribute this sudden, penchant for coming up short? Is it Mac's fault? Mac's fault alone? Is it a combination of several things? Is it really the offensive line? Because frankly, on the play where he got sacked for the safety, he had not one but two guys whiffed. Yeah. And I just don't understand how that's even professional caliber football being played when you're in an obvious situation and your quarterback is going to be in the end zone and you still whiff on the play because Max Crosby ate him for lunch.
Yeah. I think that, it's all the above. I think Bill O'Brien made a good point again, saying that because of the two penalties at the beginning of that drive, they get a holding call to get first down. They gain 6 yards on a little check down to Ramondre. Then they get a holding call in the very next play, and then they get a delay of game right away after that.
And these are things that are this is just fundamental football, but these are problems that have been happening with this team week in and week out since the start of this year. And
really since the start of last year.
Well, but when this team was successful, they didn't make these plays.
Yeah.
Is this the players, or is this on the coaches for not coaching it or being, I don't know, disciplined enough?
I think it's both. O'Brien's point is that because they get these two penalties, and he also pointed to the opening drive of the game where they started out with two penalties too, there's no rhythm to the offense, right? Like you're knocking yourself backwards, first of all, like you're moving backwards, but you're also just losing, that drive starting rhythm of like, okay, first drive against New Orleans, they have an 8-yard run, right? First and 10, 8-yard run, second and 2. And they go incomplete, 3 and out. Mm-hmm. And there's just they're not getting into the flow of the game. And I think for a lot, you can blame the players for the execution or the lack thereof, or the lack of attention to detail. I also put some of the penalties and especially the procedural stuff like a delay of game. You have to put some of that on the coaching. But I think the biggest thing is that as players, you need to feel good about yourself. Like you need to get into a rhythm. You need to have some success early on in these games. Mac Jones needs to complete some passes. Ramondre Stevenson needs to get into a flow of the game of carrying the football and having positive yards and things like that. And because they're starting these games so poorly, they're running uphill the entire game, but B, they're disjointed. Like there's just no continuity, there's no rhythm, there's no like they're not getting into it, they're not sweating into the game, right? Like it's old cliche.
And who should we be pointing the finger at?
I think that in my opinion, when it comes to the start of the game, that's the coaches, in my opinion, because you've been waiting all week.
You've got a game plan you're going to follow.
Right.
You're scripting some things out.
Like, you're talking, most people talk about the opening script being, some teams do it differently, right? Like some teams it's shorter, some teams it's longer, but let's just call it 10 plays just to be safe.
Right.
So your first 10 plays of the game are usually plays that you are in the install for the game plan that you've been practicing all week, that you've been telling the players all week long. First and 10 at the 25 when we get the football to start the game, this is the play we are running. And so the fact that they basically predetermine these things and they still aren't executing it tells me that something about the coaching and the details, it's really the details. And I know that, people myself included, get caught up and they don't have the talent to go out there and hit the bombs or hit the 60-yard play or hit the, explosive and things like that. But when it comes to like getting into the game and getting a rhythm and scoring early and not getting into these 10-0, 13-3 holes, like those types of things, I think are you need to start the game better.
All right. So to that end, then I'll share with you again, because this has been one of my hugest, is that a word?
Sure.
Hugest pet peeves for several years.
Yes.
Okay.
Here we go. I know exactly what you're going to say.
And you know which one it is.
Yeah.
And it has to do with before we ever kick the game off.
Yeah.
the coin flip.
Yeah.
And the Patriots win the flip, and they always, and forever, until ad nauseum infinity, defer.
Yeah.
Now, I understand the whole, you don't need to explain it to me. I get the whole idea of the double score. Listen, when the Patriots had Tom Brady at quarterback and they had dynamic receivers, running backs, an offensive line that could block, okay, yeah, I get it. The double score idea is a great idea because Tom could manage and massage the clock as well as any quarterback has ever done that in the history of the game. But two things here. I know the Patriots are poor on offense right now. I know this. So why does it make sense then to start the game on offense rather than on defense? Because on defense, in theory, you're playing to your strength because you feel like you have more confidence in your defensive side than you do on your offensive side. But my point here is number one, this is like the guy who throws a 98-mile-an-hour fastball early in a baseball game, all right? He kills people for the first, 2-3 innings, right?
Yeah.
Throwing 98, throwing solid gas, maybe even touching 100 every now and then. By the start of the fourth inning, guys start catching up. Okay?
Yeah.
And then before long, those foul balls become, line drive base hits, and then before too long, he'll leave one out over the middle of the plate and boof, gone.
Yeah.
How can he avoid that? Well, how do most pitchers avoid that? They throw something called a changeup or a curve or a slider or something that the batter is not expecting, and that's my point. Don't the Patriots have to figure out a way to throw something at the opposition that they are not expecting?
Yeah, it's a good point. And at this point, I think, O'Brien was actually asked about it on Tuesday. And, in reality, I truly think, and he didn't completely put it off on Belichick, but it's probably more the head coach's call. I was going to say Bill's call, but that's confusing. It's probably more the head coach's call about who, what you're really doing in that spot. I at this point, they have to try to do something differently to start the game better, right? They've started games poorly all year long.
And that's the whole look.
I agree with you finally.
Yeah, well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Because I feel like I've been right on along, but nobody pays any attention.
I've been I know you explained the double score thing, but it actually for Belichick and Michael Lombardi I think he wrote it. I don't know. You can just Google it and you'll find it about the middle eight. Right, so it's the last 4 minutes of the first half, and the first 4 minutes of the second half.
Yes,
and the middle eight theory or the middle eight principle, whatever you want to call it, is that not only are you setting up the double score at the beginning of the end and the beginning of the half, you're also basically keeping the other team's offense off the field for 30 minutes of real time.
Yeah.
And that can throw off the rhythm.
I get it.
So when you're, especially, Belichick, I think, really came up with this theory years ago, maybe even in Cleveland. But I think, a lot of the reason why is when you're facing a great quarterback like Peyton Manning, and if you can get Peyton Manning to sit there for an hour,
get out of his rhythm
and throw him off his game and all that kind of stuff, that's gonna benefit your football team. But I'm with you that look, they got to try everything differently. They're 1-5, so continuing to just do the same thing is the definition of insanity.
Yes,
at this
thank
point.
you. And that's my point is that what we're embarking upon now is sheer insanity.
Yeah.
Because you keep doing the same thing expecting a different result, and it doesn't happen. And to this particular instance, look, the Patriots struggle. They can't perform from behind.
Yeah.
But that's all they've ever been this year. Maybe with a lead, maybe somehow things can turn out differently or force them to play differently or force the opposition to play differently. Now, I grant you, it'll be hard for the team to take the opening kickoff and move it 75 yards down the field and score a touchdown. I understand that part. But you don't have a shot at it unless you have the ball.
Yeah. I mean, they're just getting down way too quickly in these games. It's every week. And let's just take for a second, let's take the Dallas and New Orleans game out of it because those two games, they were not competitive. Right? They got blown out. Yeah. They were not competitive. Yeah. But if you just look at the 3 or 4 games, that they were competitive in, the Jets game, they had a lead. I think they were winning 10-0 at one point in the Jets game. But the Eagles game, the Dolphins game, and now this game last week in Vegas, they were down double digits by like this midway through the second quarter. I think it was like, in some of those games, it was like to start the game, like, you're down to the Eagles. What was it, like 18-3 or whatever the score was?
Correct.
Like absolutely immediately, like in the first quarter. And you just, regardless of if you're a good comeback team, bad comeback team, good offense, bad offense, that's not a way to live in the NFL. You can't do that.
Your mindset changes. Your play calling probably changes because you got to do something to stem the tide.
Yeah.
So you're thinking probably more possession type of offense simply because you want to keep the ball out of the other guy's hands because they've got already a big lead on you.
Yeah.
It changes the face of the game if you're playing from a lead. And again, yeah, they have a lead in the Jets game, and that's the one game that they won. And they didn't win the game because they played from the lead rather than the loss or from behind. I will grant you that. But it just changes the face. It changes the attitude. It changes the tempo. It changes how the other guys look at you. It changes a lot of different things. And the key word here is change. You got to throw them something they're not expecting. I would love for them to come out. Okay, this is crazy, but I'd love for him to come out with Malik and run RPOs and let him just take off with the ball, let hey, what they did on the touchdown play this last week, they let Ezekiel Elliott go from the Wildcat.
Yeah,
I'm fine with that. I'm okay with that. Give them something that they won't expect. Now you can't make a steady diet of it. I'm not saying to do that, but if you get the other team thinking they can't react, and right now, teams are teeing off on this woeful Patriot offensive line.
Yeah.
And they're blowing by guys, and you're getting your quarterback decapitated. And I've heard several people say this, and it's an accurate term, and I think you started it. Mac is broke.
Yeah.
He's broken. And it's nobody's fault but this coaching staff and this organization's fault. They broke Mac. Mac didn't break Mac.
Yeah, I don't disagree with any of that, and I think Mac is broken, and at the point where, good job, Faith, with the emails.
Yes, very good.
I'm at the point now where best way to put it, like, I don't know if you can put Humpty Dumpty back together again.
And that's actually a pretty good way to put it.
Because you've done this to him now 2 years in a row.
Yeah, I know.
So I don't know if you can.
Poor son of a bitch. I feel sorry for him.
Yeah,
I do.
I don't know if he's salvageable at this point, and I don't mean that as like a knock on him or a disrespect towards him. But I think that in general, with this offense, they have to find some success early in these games because, we were talking to some of the players last week, and some of those guys, they were saying they have Wednesday's a big early down day, right? In practice, pads are on. They run a lot of first and second down offense, run game. Like that's what Wednesdays are all about.
Yeah.
They have calls on the call sheet. Bill O'Brien has calls in the game plan that they don't even get to because they're down so quickly in these games that he has to completely abort mission, right? Like, they have all these first down play calls on up their sleeve, but when it's 13-3, 10 minutes into the game, there's no reason, right? Like they can't call it.
Correct.
So they have to figure out a way to start the game better when it comes to throwing things that are different at the team. I think, that was, I blame the phrasing of the way that Bill said last week, we got to start all over. I think a lot of people took that as they're going to completely throw out what they're doing and you're going to see a totally different offense, like in terms of scheme, right? Like
they can't do that.
Right.
They don't do that. They won't do that.
Right. So, but what he really meant was we're going to go back to the spring and go back to day one of this is our base plays, right? These are our base runs. These are our base pass plays, and that's what we're going to run.
Yeah.
Because we are maybe getting a little bit too caught up in game plan and Cowboys and Micah Parsons and this, that, and the other thing, where we just need to worry about us right now.
Right.
Before we can start worrying about all that. So when I heard start all over, that's the way I took it was, okay, what are Bill O'Brien's base plays? What are his core concepts? And that's what we're going to run, and that's what they did against the Raiders. Was it completely all, really successful? No. But in the second half, they did have those 2 touchdown drives, and they found some things in the ground.
The 17-play drive, by the way, I mean, I was happy they were driving the ball, but I'm like, could somebody play with a little sense of urgency here?
So it's a good question, or like a good point. he was asked about that too. So you're hitting on all the things that all of us hit on
Hey,
Tuesday.
I pay attention. I do pay attention.
I
Contrary to
know you
popular
do.
belief, I pay attention.
I know
Okay.
you do.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, on Tuesday, he was asked about that, and I think that it was Mike Reese is the one that asked the question, and he phrased it really interestingly to me. Was like, do you have to walk before you can run? Meaning, can you not even worry about how long it's taking, but just because you have to just string positive plays together. And I think that goes back to your point about the double score. Like, there used to be a time when they could go into the 4-minute offense and they could execute it so well that Brady would like sit there and he'd call a timeout with like 3 seconds left with the ball right in the middle of the field for like a chip shot 30-yard field goal to win the game, right? That. There used to be a time and place for that, but this offense
can't do that.
They can't like be like, oh, well, we got to hurry up, guys, because then they'll hurry up and then they'll make a mistake and then it'll be over.
Now you hit the nail on the head. The problem is that they want to play that way. They don't know how, or they are incapable of playing that way. And so I lay that at the feet of two things. Number one, I lay that obviously at the foot of the athlete themselves because, well, you're a professional. You should be able to do that. Number two, I lay that at the feet of the coaching staff as well because they're not coaching it. They're not teaching it. And they're not selecting the players that have the aptitude to perform it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is a total systemic failure.
Yeah. I think that in terms of like the personnel side of it, everybody knows I've said it a million times about how the talent and the neglect of the offense and all this kind of stuff. I think that there's one thing that really stands out to me, though, like being around the guys, as much as we're allowed to and everything. I don't know how many winners they really have in that locker room. Like, I don't know, and I hate to say it like that because I don't want to be personal, but like I don't know how many killers they really have in that locker room.
Killers and winners, I think, are two different things.
Yeah.
The winners, I think they have plenty of because they have guys who have been team captains. That's part of their recruiting process when they go out and they interview these guys, right?
Yeah.
They want guys who've been leaders on their teams. Sometimes the level of football might not be what you would expect, but that's what they want. Killers, different story.
Yeah.
They don't have enough guys that really like, they like to gnaw the meat off the bone.
Yeah.
Okay? I think they had one, at least that I saw, and I have two or three, but the one that I saw from, come up at least a little bit and thought had promise was Keon White.
Yeah.
I thought he was one of those potential killers. I think that Kyle Duggar has been a potential killer. Jabril Peppers, when healthy, he's been a potential killer, and he's the one that made the one hit that everybody's been talking about because it's the only time we've seen the Patriots smack down anybody on any other team this year thus far, this last weekend. So there are spots, but there aren't enough of them.
Yeah, and they're none of them are on offense.
No.
Like,
that's another good point.
I go back to, what was it? I think it was 2016. I think it was 2016 when the Patriots played the Steelers, and they had to go on that game-winning drive, and it was just Brady to Gronkowski, Brady to Gronkowski, Brady to Gronkowski.
And nobody could stop it.
And nobody could stop it because Gronk was a killer. Like, Gronk was like,
ball is mine.
You can't cover me.
No, that's right.
I know you can't
That's
cover
right.
me.
And yet we have, Devon Parker on the other side, Devontae Parker on the other side, who's like, well, it might have touched my fingertip.
Yeah.
Dude, the ball hit you in the hands, you dropped it.
Yeah.
Own it. And when he didn't own it, I was done.
Yeah.
I'm done with the guy. Done.
Yeah, I agree. And it just, those guys, and I think this is a general, like, statement about the entire team, too, on offense. I don't know if those guys necessarily have the confidence in themselves and in the program and in the offense and in the quarterback.
And who does that come back to?
It comes back to the coaches, I think. And, all these, like, the confidence, I think, is a big word. Like, Gronkowski had the confidence that nobody on the Steelers defense was going to cover him on that drive. And they marched right down the field. Does Devontae Parker have the same belief in his quarterback and himself and the line and the whole operation?
None of the above.
Right. And I think that that's when you start to see the cracks, right? Is that if, that type of play, the Gronkowskis, the Edelmans, like those guys of the world make that catch.
Like I said, systemic failure.
Yeah.
At all levels.
Yeah.
At all points, and it's unfortunate that it manifested itself to even get to this point, because it has come like a blindside hit to you, to me, to fans, to media, to everyone who's covered and watched the New England Patriots play football this year. It has been a blindside hit. So the question now stands, at 1-5. What do you do from this point in time? You have, a division rival this week who could make mincemeat out of you, although they have their own injury issues going into the game this Sunday, which would probably level the playing field somewhat. We'll talk to Vic Carucci from Buffalo in just a little bit on that one. But you got to kind of wonder what the next step would be, because it's a little early to start talking about tanking for the draft. And I've never believed in that theory anyway. If you're a professional, you play ball, and that's it, and you don't worry about it, and the chips fall where they may,
Yeah, I think that's a good point, because we get this a lot, and I understand, and, fans... certain fans have given up on the season. Certain fans want to tank for the draft pick. Certain fans are we talk about this stuff on an almost daily basis. I write about it, and people respond to my tweets about the team, like, why you even do it, like, regardless of being my job and stuff like that. Who even cares? Like, this is ridiculous.
Right.
The bottom line is that nobody, whether they can do it or not, is a totally different conversation. But nobody in the locker room is giving up on the season at 1-5.
Yeah.
Nobody is. So our job and my job, I feel like, is to try to tell you guys, like, what I think that they might be doing to try to turn this thing around.
Right.
Because that's what they're doing. Like, they're not, no one's in that.
No, they're trying.
Yeah.
They're trying. They may not have the personnel to do it, but they're trying.
Yeah. And I think the main thing that you got to do, if you're the Patriots offense especially, is try to master what I was just talking about, your base offense. Like, start at square one.
Yep.
Start at A.
Yep.
And then we can worry about, B, C, D.
Right.
Yeah.
That's all we got to do.
Awesome.
Ev, appreciate you.
Anytime.
As always. Evan Lazar, Patriots.com. The aforementioned Vic Carucci now joining us here inside the playbook. Vic, of course, has covered the Buffalo Bills for, how many years, Vic? How many? What number are we in now?
Wow. Well, I guess it started in 1982 off and on, but it hasn't been constant since then. So since my return to Buffalo, I guess was 2014.
Right. Okay. Because I remember for a long time you covered the NFL for the Sporting News and other places, and we should mention that. You do a lot of things for WGRZ television in Buffalo, and you also started a column for a site known as the 33rd Team. You want to tell us a little bit about that one?
Yeah, it's really cool. It stems from, of course, building a lot of league-wide relationships. NFL.com, SiriusXM NFL Radio, on which I've regularly appeared since 2004.
Right.
Since the channel came aboard.
Mm-hmm.
And Mike Tannenbaum founded this, the former NFL executive, Jets and Dolphins, along with Joe Banner, for whom I worked when I worked for the Browns for a while and ran all their internal stuff media-wise. And they approached me and said, do you now that you're kind of stepping away from the day-to-day with the Buffalo News, would you be interested in, dabbling and writing for this? And it really has been a blast working with, the roster is loaded with Hall of Fame GMs and coaches. And,
I've noticed.
Some players, right? It's really a stellar lineup, and it's really fun for me, every conversation with one of those people is always like a master class in the NFL. Yeah,
I've noticed. So I'll give it a little plug here in case anybody is unaware of it. Just you can find it at the33rdteam.com, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, no paywall. Just go in there. They're really building up the site, and it's great. And that's the other nice thing is, from what I've been told by those who run it, that it's gaining a lot of eyeballs, and people are coming to it and recognizing it. So. Look, what is the most competitive world in media? It's NFL coverage, and this is yet another layer to that.
That's very true. Well, it caught my eyeball, so I wanted to make sure I got that out as well, because I said, hey, this is cool. I'm going to read this stuff, especially while it's not under a paywall. I'm going to go.
Right,
I'm going to get after it a little bit. Paywalls are
until they try to charge you a subscription.
Well, yeah, and you know what? Listen. The way things have gone with media these days, charging it a subscription doesn't surprise me, because everybody deserves to be paid.
Yeah, that's the way of it. And you're right. I mean, you and I both have been around this long enough to know what the original concept of, and I think I know we're getting off the
That's all right.
Real,
no worries. We like to digress here.
Okay. Well, I'm digressing, but early on it was I understood the basic thought of they got to find us. We got to put it out there, let people see it and consume it.
Yeah.
But the drawback, and some still do, of course, but for the most part, if you don't have, it's either it's advertising or subscriptions, and I guess if you're following that Netflix formula or the New York Times or whatever you want to call it, Amazon, you got to get people to pay for your product, or else your product doesn't have a worth, right? If
yes,
you put a price on it.
precisely. People want things for free, Vic, and it's kind of like, well, then really, what's it worth if you're getting it for free?
Right.
If it's only going to be worth something if you're willing to pay a little something for it.
Yep.
So
anyway, it's fun, and thanks for bringing that up. And yeah, it's just it's doing the the TV stuff, the serious stuff, and then having the chance to chat with you once or twice a year when the Bills play the Pats.
Well, it's always good to talk to you. Gosh, we've been doing this for so long. I just want you to know it's always you and believe it or not, you and Armando Salguero have been the two guys that have been steadies for this program for the 22 years that we've been doing this show here on Patriots.com. And so
I'm honored.
Yeah, well, both of you guys are at the top of my list. I will tell you that, not only in terms of your talent and your ability. So I'll blow a little smoke up your skirt on this one, but just because not only the NFL, but the division. This is and that's what I love most about covering the Patriots is the rivalries in the AFC East have been, even when the Patriots were kicking everybody's butt. I'm like, yeah, but listen, don't sleep on those Bills, don't sleep on those Jets, and because anything can happen, and the fact that the Patriots.
And Jen,
yeah, go ahead.
And that's I was going to say to your point.
Yeah.
Regardless of who's got who's the top dog or who's got the upper hand.
Yeah.
The rivalries they don't have a singular definition.
No.
For Bills fans, for the longest time, as it was Bills Dolphins, and it was all about back and caused by what? Dolphin dominance for the longest time until the Bills turned the table and got in their Super Bowl years and all that. And then the prolonged Tom Brady Patriot ownership of the Bills and that entire division was a thing too. But it built the rivalry was defined by let's find a new way to hate that guy and hate that team and hate their fan and and hate,
yes.
And our business is love and hate generates the interest.
Yes, so. That's right. There's no middle ground. You either got to love somebody or you got to hate their guts. That's right. 100%. So how do the Bills then, let's jump from, the historical perspective here. How do the Bills then continue their recent run of dominance in the AFC East in light of what we've seen from Miami this year? Because frankly, Miami is the fastest football team I have seen maybe ever.
Staggering. Yeah. It's interesting because in the context of the Bills, you almost look at that Bills win against Miami, and as dominant as that was, really, as one-sided, even though Miami got a few touchdowns, that's nothing in comparison to what they normally do, and they were coming off a 70-point, that 70-burger on Denver. Yeah. But Buffalo getting 48 against them, is that, and the question you find yourself wondering, and as you and I stand here today looking at the Bills, looking at the entire division, was that an outlier? Was that did that thing really happen? Well, it really did. I witnessed it. I thought they found the right antidote to what Tua Tagovailoa and that speedy, that track team he has around him, and that was pressure him. That was good coverage combinations, causes for hesitation, and again, even when he never quite got to a consistent form of comfort, and by the time he was, the Bills had already piled up enough points and were in control. Can that happen again with a roster now that has been, since that game, really beaten up on the defensive side? Matt Milano was such a vital cog, probably gone for the season. Daquan Jones, who has been as quiet and but steady interior performer, probably gone for the season with their injuries that they suffered in London against Jacksonville. And then, of course, Tre'Davious White at corner out. You're taking some real big marquee defensive names out of that grouping, especially Milano and White, and you're left with a team that's pressed to find its way with its depth. They're holding up. I mean, I will say that has not been any of the problems they've had in their last two games, where they've been 1-1 and nearly 0-2 in light of that game Sunday night against the Giants, which they were primed to lose. They had done just about everything they could to put themselves in a position to lose, just that the Giants are awful, and or at least offensively were awful, and couldn't find any answers. A Giant defense pretty darn solid.
Yeah, it was. I have to admit, Vic, I fell asleep in the third quarter.
And you missed the best. You missed the most.
I woke up in time at the end to see the Bills hold on and win the game. But I'm kind of damn! I missed their 2 touchdowns. What the hell?
It was a snooze fest in many ways. I mean, okay, but that all aside, I'm not sure. The Bills' offense is definitely cause for concern for them.
Mm-hmm.
Slow starts. Josh Allen and by extension Ken Dorsey, the offensive coordinator, struggling to find answers against the blitz. The Jaguars game was pretty revealing in that regard. They were really troubled by the Bills' offense was by the various pressure packages and looks, even simulated blitzes that threw them off. Giants with Don Wink Martindale did the same darn thing, and of course they've got you can't just have good coaching. There better be talent behind it, which I know people following the Pats know these days. You've got to have the horses beyond the brains, behind the brains, or in front of them. And
not behind them.
Right. And in terms of the Giants, there's a lot of talent on that defense, and he put it to good use. Allen was frustrated in many ways. I also think that he is somewhere caught in this vacuum of run or don't run. It's been preached to him to be cautious about being reckless with his body. That's been Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane, the GM. They've been pounding that home since throughout the off season, and I think what they have now is a guy who isn't sure what he should be doing when it comes to his legs, because they are a valuable part of his game.
Yeah.
Now he's dealing with a sprained shoulder. Let's bring that up right up front.
Yep.
Limited his or a shoulder injury. I don't know to the extent of what it is, but it's considered. It's been downplayed by him. And Sean McDermott called him day to day. Today he was limited in practice, so that's at least noteworthy. If it's nothing according to Josh, it was something enough for the Bills to limit what he did in practice for whatever that's worth.
Okay.
I think he starts, he plays. I'm not casting any doubt on his availability Sunday in Foxborough. But beyond that, they are and right now when they've clicked their best in the stretch of 3 games they won before they played Jacksonville, they were a balanced offense. And by balance, not just the running game coming forward as it did in the second half against the Giants and open things up, but it's Josh completing passes to like 9 different receivers, letting the game come to him, not forcing the ball like he was doing in that Jet opener that helped lead to 3 picks.
Right, which is what I think Patriots fans probably have to have the most worry over, is because Josh Allen still knows how to go out and spread the ball around, and the Patriots, have enough issues guarding one guy, much less 7, 8, or 9 guys. Vic Carucci again joining us here. Why, Vic? You mentioned, and both teams have injury problems. We know this, and Buffalo's maybe a little bit more prevalent only because of Buffalo's standing this far, within, the AFC and with the AFC East. But why does the defense still seem to be able to sort of limit the other team's offense, even though they're suffering these injuries? Is this the depth better than you originally thought? Is this the coaching staff adjusting? What are you thinking along those lines?
Yeah, I think it's not one answer, John. I'll say this: coaching definitely has helped a great deal, and it's Sean McDermott who's now wearing the additional hat of defensive coordinator.
Yep.
He took that on in the offseason. They nudged Leslie Frazier aside. Leslie is that wasn't a choice by him to take a year off. Sean took control. He wants to push all the buttons on defense. It's his background. He did that in Philly. He did that with Carolina. That's what got him a head coaching job, and now he's doing his thing and doing it well. Really putting these guys in good place. So I'll start there. Depth, yes, obviously. You're right. If you get people hurt and others step up.
Got to step up. Yeah.
And when I say step up, are they stepping up as all pros? Solid. I'm not sure that a star has emerged or stars have emerged, but I think guys who are holding their own. But I quickly add to that the two teams now, Jacksonville, even though there was a lot of hype about Trevor Lawrence and that offense and Doug Peterson's team entering the season, they weren't playing that way leading up to that game against Buffalo. And then even through the course of that game, there were issues that they were having. And again, Buffalo's defense didn't really fall apart despite those early injuries, especially to Milano and Jones in the front, in the defensive front. And then the Giants, they were facing Tyrod Taylor, journeyman, guy, backup guy who stepped in making his first start as a Giant. Daniel Jones was hurt, had the injury, the neck injury. And it's a limited offense that the Giants had, and yet they were in the game. I mean, had they not screwed their game up so much, and I think before you fell asleep, you saw what they did at the goal line and the horrible management. Now, part of me is, that's what you're going to get when you don't have your starter in there, and it's Tyrod Taylor. But part of it also is that's on the coach too. That's on Brian Daboll. You got to figure that stuff out. There had Mike Kafka, the coordinator. They were all falling apart at that point. And honestly, because I think they went into that game expecting probably for it to be a pounding, lopsided. I don't think they were, ever feeling comfortable that they could take control, and they had an opportunity right there that they screwed up.
Sure, absolutely. All right, Vic. So, I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but I didn't see the spread when I got up this morning, but I heard yesterday on local radio here that the Patriots haven't been as big a home dog, and I think it was 9.5, somewhere like that. But the Patriots have not been a home dog like this since the 90s.
Wow.
This is their biggest, I guess the biggest underdog they've been at Gillette Stadium in the stadium's history. And the stadium is 23 years old this year. So I'm just kind of curious to what you think about that in a historical perspective, all those years that the Patriots were inflicting pain, and now the Bills can actually go after their fifth straight win in this series over New England here and continue to keep the Patriots winless at home this Sunday.
Yeah, well, a couple things come to mind on that is, I know I don't remember what the stat was, but something else was a 1995, not since 95 thing, and it was a negative for the Pats. So I know now we're getting to that, and that's the sad reality when teams fall into this losing mode. And the other thing that for me that's odd, it's not from a Bills perspective, but just someone who covered the league as a whole for more than a decade, well more than, and I still do. But I mean, in my time specifically of traveling around and writing when I was with NFL.com, the Pats felt like a regular beat to me. I mean, I was always there, and it was, and I always, by the way, enjoyed the presence of. It wasn't any sort of rooting interest, because I try to keep that as including what I do now. It's the worst thing to get too emotionally attached to anything, good or bad. But the good part for me was how it felt there. Like you knew you were in an elite, excellent, level of excellence, and it felt that way throughout. Seeing the opposite of that now is a hard thing to digest. I'm still, and I know you go through that, and with your show and your callers and everybody else or whoever is interacting, because I listened to the previous conversation that you had with the writer from Patriots.com. It's that same sense of what are we dealing with here? Because these are topics that hadn't been broached before.
Right.
And I still hold Bill Belichick's coaching to the highest regard, but you can't ignore when things, are bad and why are they bad? And that's what happens. What are the reasons? People, when things are going well, people wonder, what are they doing well? Let's list the thing. But the list of what's going wrong or why it's wrong is a much longer one.
It's overwhelming.
Right? It's overwhelming. So as I look at it, the line or whatever you want to call it is probably the Vegas guys probably got it right, but I thought they had it right with 15 or so of that Giant game, and we saw how that turned out.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, the spread really doesn't mean anything except for how the money is moving on the game. We know that.
Right.
I think it's more, to me, about the matchup. And I've watched the all 22 of the Patriots, and I just see so many holes, so many flaws, so many areas that if the Bills are playing most of their game, not even being fantastic, but just being not self-destructing, like when they've lost, that's the common denominator.
Mm-hmm.
When they've lost this season, those two games, Jets, Jags, they found a way to lose. They did it to themselves more than I think the opponent. So if their approach in this game is something other than that, then I don't see them having a problem controlling this one throughout and having a pretty comfortable victory.
Yeah, I think it's going to take self-inflicted wounds, for Buffalo to probably lose this, as you suggested in the two losses that we've seen so far. I mean, I was stunned really by the Jacksonville one until I realized, okay, number one, Jacksonville had been there for a week in London, so they obviously had a built-in advantage, I think, right there, which I'm sure didn't make anybody in Buffalo terribly happy. And number two, I thought the Giants came out and played really chippy to start the game this last week. It's almost like, hey, we're going to slap these guys upside of the head and see if we can catch their attention, and I think it worked. Until the second half, right?
John, no doubt. It was one of the points. I'm not just saying this because you said that. I mean, I'm not reacting because of that, but it was something because we were talking in the press box, like, there's no rivalry here. Okay, Brian Daboll, he coached in Buffalo, but that's not why these guys are having these right up from the opening kickoff, all this extracurricular stuff, or Josh Allen foolishly jamming his shoulder into a guy in the end zone. That was just so idiotic. I couldn't understand what he was thinking there. A shoulder that is now bugging him, but that happened when he hit the field hard. But my point is, Brian, in some ways, let's give him credit, and the coach said, because I think he told these guys, look, again, we're going to be competitive in this game. We're going to do it. We got to pull out all the stops here, irritate them, get in their face, chirp, talk, push, whatever it takes. I don't like that in football. We don't want that in sports. You want to say that you want it clean and pure and whatever. But guess what? It's football and nasty. And if you add a little level of nastiness for the sake of throwing another team off its game and it works, I'm sure Brian in some ways felt, okay, we did the right thing, and we almost won.
I think Patriots fans would hope that their team might still have some of that left in them for this Sunday if it gets down to that. Vic, thank you so much for taking the time this afternoon. You gave us a big portion of your day, and really appreciate the insight that you always bring, especially from the Buffalo perspective. And I'll make sure that the clam chowder is warm for you when you get here.
Always a pleasure, John.
All right.
Take care.
Thank you so much. Vic Carucci, who you can find him at Vic Carucci, Carucci is how you spell his last name. Find him there on X. In fact, you can read his columns, and I don't believe it's behind a paywall at all at WGRZ.com, which is Channel 2 in Buffalo, but that's where he does a lot of his work as well. And then, of course, we mentioned the new website that he's a part of, which is really cool, the 33rd Team. THE33RDTEAM, the 33rdteam.com. Pretty cool because they're getting a bunch of really good writers from around the NFL to offer their thoughts, and I think it seems to be a really nice compilation of experience in the NFL that you don't have to, at least right now, find behind a paywall. Karen Garrigan of Mass Live and also Russell Baxter will join us here shortly. In the meantime, phones are open, 855-PATS-500. Web radio at patriots.com, on email at JR Broadcaster. That's the Twitter handle or the X post or whatever the hell they call it. I can't, every week I talk about this, and I realize I probably sound like I'm 85 in this regard, but I truly don't know what Elon Musk wants us to call it anymore. What do we call it? So my X address, there you go. Something like that, maybe? I don't know. At JR Broadcaster, or you can post on my Facebook page. All right, Sean in Vancouver has been kind enough to hang on for a long, long time. Hey, Sean, you're in the playbook.
Hey, John, how's it going?
Good.
I was in Vegas on Sunday. It was even though it was a loss and I didn't really anticipate much more, I had a great time. I saw Ty Law on Saturday, and
how was that?
Also,
that was good, right?
That was amazing. He was so good. He was like there for 3 hours, just signing anything anybody would give to him.
Yeah,
like a handshake.
He's very
so
engaging.
Good.
He is very engaging,
yeah.
And the best part about it is that I think he appreciates what he once had, and now that he's still superstar level because he's an NFL Hall of Famer. He's actually trying to give back a little bit and promote the sport and everything. I think that's very cool. I would tend to say that with age comes wisdom, and I think in his case, it's that tenfold. Yeah.
And earlier that morning, I wished Jules a good Shabbos, so that was nice too.
Nice, well done.
And, no, it was fun, and it was not like the crazy Raiders fans you'd expect from back in Oakland. Everyone was really friendly and fun, and I really I'll go again for sure.
Good. Well, and hopefully you'll get a little bit better result overall. Although I got to tell you, I still thought
when they get back there.
I still.
Be a few years.
Oh, it may be, and I would imagine it probably will be because I don't think they're getting back there this year. That's for sure.
No.
But
no, that's not happening.
No. In your dreams maybe. But I would say, look,
my dreams are more realistic than that too.
Yeah, I know, and I think, and really, I'll be honest with you, Sean. That's the disappointing part about all this, because not so much that we said, the Patriots are going to be, a contender. I think, on the plus side, we all hope that the Patriots would be good enough to get back into the postseason. My prediction was I thought they'd actually win a game if they got into the postseason, but they're not even going to sniff that, and for the reasons that we've stated over the last few weeks, and we will probably continue to state over the course of the next few weeks. This roster has a ton of rebuilding that it still needs to go through, and some of that may start within the coaching staff as well. And look, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Bill Belichick should be fired and replaced. We've talked about it. Right. We've talked about what should happen, what could happen, what might happen. But if you're really going to pin me down to it, I would say no. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, because I think Bill realizes that this is going south and has gone south on him in a hurry. And so knowing that the competitor that he is and has been and undoubtedly will continue to be until the day he leaves planet Earth, I think he wants a chance to get this thing back on the right track before he departs Foxborough. And so I think he knows that he's going to require some help. Now, whether that means he's willing to give up, his general manager duties or look for, player personnel stuff or whatever. I mean, our local media here, Sean, just so you know, they're all saying, there's no way Bill would take a lesser role. That, it's kind of like it's my way or the highway.
Yeah, I agree.
And maybe that's the case. But I would tell you that nothing ventured, nothing gained. You have to ask the question. Yeah. And I think Mr. Kraft, being the smart businessman that he has been for a number of years, when you buy a team for $170 million and you turn it into a $7 billion with a B dollar enterprise over the 30 years that you've owned the team, then you obviously have some sort of acumen for turning things around and building. And I think he still is capable of doing that here. And I think, if push comes to shove, these guys can have a meeting of the minds and decide what is the best way for us to step forward here. And the best way to step forward here is to make this an all-hands-on-deck. Everybody's available. Let's go out and do the best job we can to turn this around, so that way we all feel better about ourselves before we sail off into the sunset. And I think that's the natural reaction that should be coming from him. It's just going to take a hell of a lot longer than we thought. The analogy that I will use here is if we went to the top of the let's say the top of the Prue Center in downtown Boston, all right? And we threw a ripe pumpkin over the edge of the top of the Prue Center, right? Okay. And it's going to smash into a million pieces, right, down at the bottom, and hopefully not hurt somebody along the way.
Yeah, I got to clear the streets.
It's just taking this franchise since Tom Brady left It's taken this franchise the better part of 3-4 years for the pumpkin to reach the street.
Yeah.
You understand the analogy? It's taken us
get it.
it's taken us longer to realize that, hey, this team hasn't bottomed out yet. And guess what? We're there now. Say hello to the bottom.
Well, yeah, speaking of bottom, like I could see this team, let's say they finish at 5-12, right? And it's late January.
I think you're being generous at 5 right now, to be honest with you.
Well, maybe. But if it's 5 or 3, it doesn't matter. But the thing is, I could see Robert Kraft not wanting to actually fire Bill Belichick in your scenario of saying, hey, look, we need to do something in personnel.
Yeah.
We can't have these decisions continue. We're going to bring in a GM.
Yeah.
Probably, say 98%. Belichick was so, well, I can't really deal with that. That's not happening.
Yeah.
I'll just
Okay.
retire.
Right.
So that's probably what's going to happen. But, when you're talking to Evan earlier about a quick start, getting the ball, it doesn't work if they don't score. So they have to do something different if they want to take that approach.
Yeah.
You've got to do something like, this is what I could see, like first down, the first play of the game. Okay, you have Malik Cunningham wide, right? And you have Pop Douglas running a crosser, and you have Thornton going deep. They throw a backwards pass to Malik if he's open to run.
And it's intercepted by Chandler Jones and run back for a touchdown.
Well, Chandler Jones is in jail, so that's what
Yeah, that's also true. How about that story, huh? Oh, my God. Talk about a guy that's had the wheels come flying off. Whew, I feel badly.
You get hit in the head too much,
Yeah,
It really hurt, especially if you have something like some type of mental illness to start with, which is possible. I don't know if he's been diagnosed with it, but he might have some kind of
dementia
disorder, or even like bipolar or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm just guessing.
Sad.
But,
it's sad.
It is sad, and like Vic Carucci was pointing out, the All-22. This team is not good. That's why you've seen all these holes, and not much could change. You just have to restart. So, my prediction for the game, I'm going to go with Bills 27, Patriots 10.
I think that's probably pretty accurate, Sean. Thank you for the phone call. I was as disgusted with any single play that I've seen this entire season on the safety of Mac Jones at the end of that game to seal it for the Raiders, because Mike Gesicki and good Lord, Lowe at the right tackle and they were whipped. And my grandfather used to tell me this one. They got whipped, son, like a rented mule. They were both whipped like rented mules on the right side, and Crosby was almost unimpeded. And it was just so embarrassingly bad. I don't have any other explanation for it, but it was not professional caliber football. And that's why I'm kind of like, wow, that's just like, that would be like if I had to block Max Crosby. I'm going to have my big red cape out there, just like the matador with the bulls, and I'm going to just wave it and say "Ole," let him go, because that's basically what happened. Todd in Garner,
North Carolina.
Raleigh. In Garner, North Carolina. Okay, that's cool. Hey, Todd, how's it going?
Well, I haven't called you in a while. Does that tell you something?
Well, it tells me that you don't have much to say.
Oh, I have a lot to say. I've just been not using that kind of language with a guy that I could consider a virtual friend. John, that's what you are to us. You're that soft landing spot that the Patriots are totally lost on.
Yeah.
Okay, Bill, goodbye. Mr. Kraft Sr., even on WEEI, they've got their little article. They're discussing it. They don't think Robert got the attention to detail that he used to be able to cover this team, too. So I think we just need to let the seniors get in SpaceX, because you said they couldn't be on the planet, and otherwise they're going to be involved, and take a flight, because I think that this team just needs an absolutely total rebuild. It's been, instead of a year too late, it's been about 3 years, or a year early. It's been 3 years too late, and we're not doing what's best for the team. We haven't been doing it since Brady left, and that's where we're at. And yeah, the pumpkin was falling, but you realize it was bouncing off the walls, it was spinning sideways. It was a horror show, and it's been since Brady's gone. There's always been one or two plays that you're looking at going, dear Lord, what happened there? Like last year in Raiders Town, it was the end of the game.
I'm actually thankful, Todd. I'm actually thankful that we finally appear to have hit rock bottom, because it's taken us a while to get there, and now you can actually start thinking about building back to the top. But you can't really build to the top until you hit bottom, and that's what the last 3 years really have been. You're just sort of trying to maintain and hold on to and grab onto any little sliver of respectability that you once had when you were dominating the NFL for 20 years, when you clearly know that you don't have it any longer. But now the pumpkin smashed, so you got to go.
You just stated the problem. They kept hanging on. They kept trying to do this stuff. They never cleaned house. They never got it reset. And even right now, it's not reset.
That's correct. That's right.
I would love to see Jonathan Kraft come up and say, we got to peel the bandage off of this. We got to do it now.
Yeah.
We got to let the team know, let the players know. We got to find out if we've got anything here.
Agreed.
We can keep for a nucleus. Just say, Bill, goodbye. We're going to put Mayo or O'Brien. I prefer O'Brien because he's offensive minded as interim head coach. Let's reset this. Let's see what.
Yeah, I understand your thought process, Todd, here, and I think it makes sense in practical terms, but I just don't see the Crafts doing that to Bill. I just don't. I don't see it. I know the relationship. Well, okay, maybe, but maybe this is their way of thanking Bill for 6 Super Bowl trophies. I don't know. They're going to give him a chance, and they're going to give him the benefit of the doubt when it comes to trying to correct things. Now, they may have parameters.
In 2016, John.
Again, you're making plenty of sense, Todd. But I'm just telling you the reality of it is that they don't look at it like that. That the man has built up enough chits in the bank to where he really can't do anything wrong, even when everything has gone wrong. So he's going to get a chance. He will get a chance to fix this. Even with parameters, it's up to Bill to take the parameters and accept them. Say that again?
Don't you think that the Crafts have enough cachet, enough?
Yes. Yes, they do. They do, but they're not. But I'm going to tell you, they're not going to use it. They won't. They won't use it. I'll be in the front of the line with my surprise, mask on and all that kind of stuff. Hey, surprise! If they let him go before this season is over. In fact, I'll be surprised if they let him go at all. I think they're going to give him every opportunity, to throw a change up and invite some help in because they know he doesn't want to go out like this in New England. Could he go and get another job somewhere else? I think that's the only way that this ends up, non-amicably or in a non-retirement sense, where if he goes to, say, the Chargers or the Cowboys, I've heard that rumor out there, or anything else, and if he has a chance to control personnel as well as coach anywhere he goes, then I could see them agreeing to part ways at the end of the year. Short of having that opportunity to go, because Bill said he wants to coach for another 3 or 4 years. He'd like to coach to age 75. And so if that's the case, then if it's going to be in New England, Bill, we got to do something to fix this problem, and we're going to bring in somebody from the outside to help you do it. And if he doesn't like that, then I could see everything unfolding. But they're going to give him every opportunity to take that ball and run with it.
But the longer he's here, the harder it is going to be to transition away from him, because the more ensconced, he's got his family working here. He's got Troy Brown. I love the person, but he's a disaster.
Well, that's fair. Okay, now you're talking about something completely different. They again, one of those conditions for him sticking around may very well be we got to change it up here, and it's fair to point fingers at guys like Troy Brown for all that we love him and all that he's done, for this franchise over the years. The wide receiving core is still a complete mess. We're seeing guys that are not disciplined on their roots. We're seeing a lot of things. So he'd be one you'd have to look at. Adrian Clem, he just came in, but my God, is the offensive line an absolute disaster. That's another one that you'd have to look at. Yeah, his own sons. Bill O'Brien, he deserves a lot of criticism because we all thought he would be the panacea to curing Mac Jones' ailment, and it's gotten worse, although I would tell you that what has indirectly led to that has been the poor performance of the offensive line. That's
and last year too.
Yeah,
he's not over last year. That's obvious. You watch him in the pocket. He's scared, man.
I know.
He's scared.
I know. But
I'm scared too, John. I'm going to let you go with that. I'm scared too. Let's just do something, man.
We got to do something. We're in agreement, Todd. It's good to hear from you. We always have to be ready to do something. All right, you want to hit his? You got Russell's open there. Faith, stand by, Russell. Faith is learning the routine. You got it? We'll find out.
A real woman
Yeah.
can stop you from drinking.
It has to be a real big woman.
It's time to go around the NFL with football guru Russell Baxter
Now on, your name is Flounder.
on Patriots Playbook.
Flounder?
How about that? Faith's maiden voyage in the playbook today, and she's got all the buttons punched. Hello, Russell.
I don't know what you were so nervous about. I mean, I had total faith in her.
Right. Perfect name, right? Perfect name.
Yeah,
She's doing a bang-up job.
I didn't know we were going to talk about rock and roll on the show today.
Well, we can talk about anything you want, Russell, because frankly, I'm not sure football's working. So, right?
I don't even know if it's rock and roll. What are the Smashing Pumpkins considered?
Rock. I don't know how much of a roll, but I would say rock. Sure, why not? Yeah,
All right.
absolutely.
Yeah, I heard that Pumpkins analogy, and I swore you were out of your gourd.
But
Should I just stop now?
Stop me.
Tell Faith to find the drum roll button.
Yeah,
So-
yeah. She's on the phone with somebody else right now, so I guess people are giving her congratulations and everything for doing such a good job today. Yeah, I know, right? So I got to start at least with the Patriots here, only because we just got off the line with our good friend Vic Carucci, and and getting his take on what he's seen, and obviously he has underscored really kind of what we've all feared about New England when he looks at the All-22 and he looks at the film, he looks at all this stuff, and he's one of those, All-22 geeks that, a lot of us like to pretend we are, but really I only know 2 or 3 people that are like. But he's like, man, I've never seen it like this in New England, and I'm kind of paraphrasing. There's a lot of holes. And so when you're at 1-5 and you got a lot of football still to play, and you have a lot of walking wounded, which the Patriots have, some walking, some not, and you're staring at Buffalo and Miami back-to-back here, and a shot, at 1-7 potentially going into this. How do you take that next step forward?
Well, it's rough to watch, and as long as you and I have been doing this together, it's uncharted territory.
Yeah.
And you really have to go back to some. I mean, listen, the Patriots had some competitive teams. Obviously, there were Super Bowl teams with Bill Parcells. Pete Carroll had them in the playoffs at least 2 times, 97 to 98. So we're going back a while in terms of this team, and they're just. You think about the fact that this team is averaging 12 points a game.
Which is crazy. That's by the way, that's not dead last in the league. That's next to last.
No, I mean the Giants have scored 1 less point than the Patriots, 71 to 72.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, I will remind people that the Giants have scored 1 more point than the Dolphins did in Week 3, and the Patriots have scored 2 more points than
the Dolphins did in 1 game. Yeah, I know, right?
But I'll tell you a number that really jumps out, and we'll get to Buffalo in a second as far as how that series is flipped. This is a team that's always been very opportunistic.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, it turned a lot of turnovers into, or I should say, takeaways into scores. A little shaky, special teams, and yet they had their own problems on special teams as well. But we're 6 games into the season, and the New England Patriots are dead last in the league with 3 takeaways.
I mean, that's you can't beat anybody when you're not taking the ball away. You have to have – you got to have – the difference that I've seen, the main difference that I've seen between this Patriots defense and even the one last year, and I think this Patriots defense is probably more talented overall than the one that they played last year, but last year's team took the ball away.
John,
and it made them more competitive. Yeah.
They had 30 takeaways last year in 17 games. They have 3
in
6.
Yeah, that should say a lot right there.
We saw the Jets force 4 turnovers against Philadelphia on Sunday alone.
Yep.
So, and listen, you could almost make – in fact, you could make the case that Matt Judon is not only their best defensive player, he might be the best player on the roster.
Yeah.
And not having him is huge.
I mean, you can certainly make a case for the 2 best players, being gone from the defense with both Judon and Christian Gonzalez, without a doubt.
Yes, Yeah, and Gonzalez obviously in his rookie year, but it's made a solid impact in just such a short time. But this is when you're a team that relies on defense like they do, and you don't have those kind of players around. There's nothing really to fall back on. And I'm not trying to be Mr. Doom and Gloom and stuff like that, but if they're gonna pull this off the next couple of weeks, and listen, the Bills, as disappointing as New England is, the Bills are perplexing. Okay, because they still have kind of the issue with turnovers. Their defense, they gave up, correct me if I'm wrong, they gave up like 474 yards to the Jaguars in London.
Yeah, they did.
Okay?
They did.
I know they almost put that. John, they didn't score a point until the fourth quarter against the Giants on Sunday night. So which version of Buffalo shows up this week? Now, I know, it's actually an amazing stat. Bill Belichick from 2000 to 2019 went 35-5 against the Bills. Since 2020, including the playoffs, he's 1-6.
That's right.
That and the Bills have had few problems scoring points, with the exception of that bad weather game in Buffalo, which was the wind and all that a couple years ago. But I mean, it's been they've kind of taken the mantle for him. But then again, you look at the Bills and their own inability to hang on to the football, and they're great at taking it away.
Right.
But they're still sloppy, and it's more than just Josh Allen.
Right.
For lack of a better word, John, there's almost like this devil-may-care attitude when the Bills play.
Right.
And they can put a lot of points on the board, and then they can also kind of do their best to give away a game.
Right.
And I'm not one who complains much about officiating, because I've just accepted the fact that it's not very good around the league, and it hasn't been for a number of years. And, until we get full-time officials, I think that's just how it's going to be.
Yeah, and I would tell you, as far as that part is concerned, look, I think replay has really done a lot to add to that problem, because they're under the pressure to get it right, and so they hesitate. And frankly, I think all of us as football connoisseurs are okay with human error. But when we really try to micromanage it, and we're looking at it to the nth degree, and I think there's a blade of grass there that's in the way, that's ridiculous. We just need to learn to move on. And I think, the NFL has been its own worst enemy where the poor officiating is concerned.
Yeah, I agree. And the point I was going to bring is the Darren Waller play at the end of the game last Sunday night. It was hard to believe there's no call there.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying the Giants would have punched it in after that. And believe me, the Giants offense has 5 touchdowns in 6 games, and 4 of them came in one game.
Right.
So even if they would have had another opportunity, and I'm not saying they would have gotten the ball in.
Right.
But the Bills are a team, to me, that are like playing with fire. They did a number on the Dolphins, and then followed it up by laying, let's see, what would be, I'm trying to think of an English breakfast. Eggs and beans, isn't it?
It's bangers and mash.
I can't.
Well, that too, but it's the traditional, English breakfast, right? Yeah.
Right.
Except don't try the blood pudding. It's nasty.
The Bills have just been. Listen, anything can happen in this league. Trust me, I have a piece coming out later. The offenses took last week off around the league. John, do you know there were 30 teams that played last week? Do you have any idea how many of them scored 30 points?
None?
2.
Okay, I was close.
2.
Yeah.
Only 3 of the 30, are you ready for this? Only 3 of the 30 teams scored more than 2 offensive touchdowns.
See, now that's to me that's crazy. That's nuts. And so, as offensive minded as the game has really become over the last decade plus here, we're still seeing a perfect example of how cyclical the sport really is. And I begin to understand a little bit more to get, I think, to the larger point here, especially where the Patriots are concerned, I begin to understand why Bill Belichick thinks the way he does. You know, that we're going to build up defense because defense is where it's going to be. This is where we're going to win football games. And I had this argument with Evan Lazar, you know, to start the show today, and he grudgingly started to give in to me a little bit because the Patriots always defer and they start the game with their defense on the field. But the problem is their defense can't get off the field, and the team invariably gives up a 6, 7, 8-minute drive to start the game, and they dig themselves a hole from which they can never climb out of.
Well, they had deferred themselves to the tune of 39-6 in the first quarter this year.
39-6.
And 98-33 in the first half.
Wait, say the first half score again. What was it?
98-33.
Okay. All right. So anybody who says the Patriots should defer clearly has their head up their keister. Because that's ridiculous. And you keep expecting it to do better. If that's not an example of insanity, I don't know what else would be. That's football insanity right there. That's a perfect example of it, and the numbers bear it out.
I mean, their offense has generated 8 touchdowns in 6 games. I don't look at total touchdowns. I look at offensive.
What? I happen to have heard a promo on the Patriots flagship radio station this week, and of course there's our good friend Bob Sosi who calls the games on the radio in the background giving the call. That call was from last year. Why? Because there haven't been that many touchdown calls this year. How crazy is that?
8 offensive touchdowns, and to make matters worse, okay, for a team last year that relied on the return game, and then when I say returns, that interception returns, fumble returns, special teams, all that stuff.
Yep.
I mean, keep in mind that last year, as I scroll through my little notes here and stuff, that
I love when you scroll.
The Patriots offense last year scored 31 touchdowns.
Okay.
Offensive touchdowns.
Okay.
They had 8 returns for touchdowns.
8 returns?
8 returns, including 5 interception returns for touchdown. Okay?
Yeah.
They have 3 takeaways, and they have Zip return touchdowns this year.
Okay.
So
that's the difference between 8 and 9 a year ago and God only knows what this year.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, if they are relying on a certain style, and unfortunately they have a guy who creates chaos in the backfield, sacks, strips, et cetera, and they don't have him right now, that's making the task obviously that much harder. So, like I said, it's going to be an interesting stretch for him the next couple of weeks with Buffalo and Miami. And they've already lost to Miami once, so we shall see. Like I said, this is uncharted territory for quite a while.
No kidding.
Have to go back to
1992.
I mean, we're probably talking like the Bledsoe era.
Yeah, well, pre-Bledsoe era, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah,
we're talking. I think maybe even the we're talking Rod Rust era in coaching.
Well, yes.
Right.
I also think about, now that I'm going to go even further back to like 1981 when they won like only 2 games, and then wound up picking Kenneth Sims in the first pick.
Right.
Of the draft. And
right.
And why I point that out.
My former college classmate, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, you know what I remember most about that year is the Baltimore Colts also finished 2-14.
Mm-hmm.
And correct me if I'm wrong, they began the season by beating the Patriots. They then turned around and lost 14 straight games, and then ended the season by beating the Patriots.
Mm-hmm.
So, but, I mean, obviously, we're going way, way back with this team, which ought to tell you how, what this franchise accomplished over a 20-year period.
No question.
There is a fan base out there and followers of the team who don't know the Patriots other than being a winning franchise.
Listen,
in the last 3 years.
I would, yeah. There's absolutely an entire, there's a couple of generations with the fans that don't know anything. I've heard people, call this show and call Patriots Unfiltered here and respond, to mailbag stuff on here on the website and everything else, who are in their 20s and they don't know anything other than Patriots and Super Bowl championships. So they're not even sure how to react. And, unfortunately, that's what these Patriots were when I first started covering the NFL. They were sad sacks. And, it took, Mr. Kraft's purchase and one, Bill Parcells to kind of change that thought process around. And then we all know what the history has been in the 22, 23, 24 years now since, Bill Belichick arrived. It's certainly been different. And you just got to remember what it took to get you to where you were dominant. And you've got to make sure that you're willing to accept that, because I've thought for a long time there was not a willingness to accept that you were lousy. And you've got to accept that first. We're lousy and we need help, and we need different people to chime in here because Bill's way or the highway just isn't working. So another conversation for the day. Let me hit on a couple of other games here really quickly. A couple of games that I'm looking forward to kind of watching and seeing just to find out if they're for real or not. I'll lead off with what is going to be tomorrow night. Jaguars playing at the Saints. I'm really intrigued by the Jags, and if their quarterback is healthy, I think Jacksonville could be a real sleeper for the rest of the year. And then the other one I think that could be damn exciting is Detroit playing at Baltimore. And if there is a team that, New England fans should root for, it has to be Detroit for the rest of the year, because if they win, they're 6-1. And they haven't been 6-1 in the Super Bowl era. I know you knew that.
Listen, if you've watched, and listen, they got, they knocked off Kansas City, and a lot of people focused on the aspect of no Chris Jones and no Travis Kelce.
Yep.
But if you watch that game and you watch the physical nature of the Lions, and then, of course, next week at home, they kind of squandered the lead and lost to Seattle in overtime. Well, they haven't lost since. And, next to Kansas City, they're the second hottest team in the league. And they're much different than they were at the start of last year, when their defense was an absolute sieve. They can run the ball, and listen, defensively they were bad for a couple of years. But guess who's leading the league in run defense right now?
In
Detroit Lions.
Run defense, yeah.
And this is something Tom Jackson and I always used to look at. Now, I find this interesting. And this is by total yards, okay? So, take it for what it's worth. Tommy and I would talk about the fact that teams that were ranked in the top 10, right, both offensively and defensively in terms of total yards. So, in other words, total yards gained and total yards allowed, okay? There are only 4 teams that can claim that in the league right now. The San Francisco 49ers, the Philadelphia Eagles, the Kansas City Chiefs, and gulp, the Detroit Lions.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Works for me.
So this is not fluky. This is a team that finished 8-2 a year ago after a 1-6 start. So 8-2 and 5-1. What's that? 13-3.
13-3 is pretty good.
And quite a run. And so, I mean, they went into Kansas City and beat the defending Super Bowl champions. They went into Tampa and beat a first-place team. Okay? So this ought to be – now, here's the over-under this week when it comes to the Lions and the Ravens. How many times will the network show Justin Tucker's field goal from a couple of years ago, which set the NFL record in Detroit, the one that bounced off the not the crossbar, but the other bar.
Yeah, the upright.
And bounced through, and the Lions lost a heartbreaker.
Yeah, right.
I wonder what the over/under on that kick being shown.
Oh, two or three at least, right? We'll say 2.5.
There you go.
Okay, yeah, I like that. Couple of great games coming up, and then, of course, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't mention the fact on Sunday night the Dolphins are playing at the Eagles. And Miami, we've already know that, is one of the quickest teams that we've seen, fastest teams we've seen out there. The Eagles have, proved mortal, and they're the cause for celebration, I think, from the remaining members of the 72 Dolphins celebrating because they finally got beat. But, hey, this could be a huge bounce-back opportunity for Philly on Sunday night.
If you like wide receivers, Sunday night is the place to be in terms of the talent. Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown.
Right, yeah.
Tyreek Hill and A.J. Brown are 1-2 in the league right now in terms of receiving yards.
Yeah, you like receivers, or you're not used to seeing good receivers, especially if you're a Patriots fan, you want to watch Sunday night's game, yeah.
And I got something coming out on this later, which I thought was interesting.
Okay.
But
oops. Yeah, what happened? Oh, I think when you were trying to hit that one button, it hung up on the other one. Okay. Yeah, try it. Faith gets a pass because Faith is taking over for Marine today. So kind of, hey, it is what it is. This time it wasn't Russell's phone that broke up. Normally, that's kind of the situation there. Yeah, see if you can get him back on. And we'll at least finish up our chit-chat here. And then Karen Gregan from Mass Live, she's going to join us here momentarily. I think part of the problem on that one is because the line that you were using, Faith, I'm not sure that's an open line. So we only have a few open lines here, so that's why sometimes it happens like that. So we'll get that done. In the meantime, let me remind you, Patriots fans, if you want to see Toyota's best offers, including those not seen on TV, go to buyatoyota.com. It's Toyota's official website for deals from the official vehicle of the New England Patriots, Toyota. Let's go places. All right, that one was on Faith. She's okay. She's got your back, I think now.
I told her I had faith in her.
Yeah, well, of course, naturally, right?
So I'll just throw this out randomly.
Okay.
So the Dolphins played the Patriots in Week 2, and the Patriots quarterback was?
Back in Week 2?
Yeah, Patriots quarterback was Mac Jones.
Oh, yeah, okay,
yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So last week they played the Panthers, spotted them 14, and then beat them by 21.
Yeah.
Panthers quarterback was Bryce Young.
Bryce Young, yeah, right.
This week, the Eagles quarterback is Jalen Hurts.
Jalen Hurts.
So a team that has a former University of Alabama quarterback already in Tua will be facing its third former
Alabama quarterback, yeah.
In 7 games.
Yeah. That's
you know
actually,
what that means?
That means that, roll tide, I guess, right?
Roll tide. Apparently, the Patriots don't have Georgia on their mind.
No.
They have Alabama on
their mind. Alabama on my mind. Yeah, sweet home Alabama, right? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Russell, I thank you, as always, for the time and for the catch-up and the ability to, make some sense with some numbers that, it may not make me feel better, but at least makes me feel like I'm not going crazy here because things obviously have stirred in a little bit of a different direction, and hey, we'll just have to kind of let this thing play out and see how it goes. I would suggest to you that I'd be surprised if we saw anything definitive happen with this New England team before the end of the year. What is your thought on that concern, especially if things continue to go south?
I totally agree, because the better organizations do not make knee-jerk reactions. And all around the league, you have certain fan bases and certain people who covered Lindheim, and they're so anxious when things go bad for a couple of years to want to pull the plug.
Yeah.
And that's what happens with New England.
Yeah.
Okay? I'll go back to Pittsburgh. Bill Cowher was losing AFC title games year after year and losing them at home.
Yeah.
They got to the Super Bowl against the Cowboys finally, and they lost. And then he went through a little drought. But they stuck with him. And eventually, he rewarded them with a Super Bowl title. Okay.
Okay.
I heard what you said. I mean, and I know Todd is ready to hire Bill Belichick to do whatever he wants him to do.
Yeah.
But you have to give him the chance. You can't take 20 years of equity and 9 Super Bowl appearances and then just jump ship.
Yeah.
Because of maybe 3 bad years in 4 years.
Yeah. No matter how much your customers are clamoring for a change.
Well, I don't see the customers calling plays. I don't see the customers catching passes.
Yeah.
Which I wish Devontae Parker would have done last year.
Right?
Okay. I mean,
I'm glad you saw that too, because he doesn't think it was catchable.
Are you kidding me?
I know.
I'm not going to say I could have caught it. I mean, but
hit him in the hands. Worst spot he could hit.
Right. I think that was one of the things that was so deflating about last week's loss. That Mac Jones threw a perfect pass.
Yeah.
Literally a perfect pass.
One of the best throws he's had all year. Yes, correct.
Field goal range.
Yep.
And then one play later, he gets sacked for a safety.
And it's all over.
So we talk about XX swing. I mean, that's, for lack of a better word, almost like a 5-point swing.
No question.
Because let's say he gets down there and, okay, maybe they miss a field goal, but at least they're in position to try.
Correct.
And then you turn around and Bing Crosby winds up sacking Mac Jones.
Yeah, Bing Crosby. Okay, now you're showing your age.
Well, I'm willing to bet when Mac got hurt, got hit, he hurt a Bing.
Oh, yeah, more than one. Oh, we're full of them today. I love it. Badoon. Thanks, buddy. Good to talk to you as always. I'll check in with you very, very soon.
All right. Let's hopefully the Patriots get off to a good start this week.
Hopefully. Hopefully. Russell Baxter at Bax Football Guru on X is where you'll find him there. All right. Karen Garrigian from Mass Live's coming up in the meantime. Eldred, you're in Charlotte today? Is Eldred still there? Eldred may not be there. All right. I'm going to put Eldred on hold just in the event that he is unloading his truck. Patty in Agawam. Hey, Patty.
What's going on, John?
Patty, what's happening?
Not too much. Just driving to class.
Okay. What course driving to class? Are you teaching or taking?
Oh no, I'm a student.
Wow. And what are you a student of?
HVAC and refrigeration.
Okay. Well, that's good to know, because when you get into that and you start doing that, people are going to want to know that you know what the hell you're doing, right?
I'm looking to get my license, so I can do it legit.
Good for you. Good for you. Go get them. Study hard.
Yes, sir. I always do. So I had a question I wanted to pose to you, John. Okay. I posed this to Catch 22 last week, and been busy the last couple of days at work. I was hoping to pose it to you guys too, and hopefully I'll get a chance to. But just for poops and giggles, let's say the Patriots do end up with a top 5 pick this year. In your opinion, do you think they should take a quarterback, or do you think? Yeah.
All right. Your phone call has broken up. I think I understood most of that, Patty. And frankly, I think it would be a good idea to ask this person that very, very question. Karen Garrigian from Mass Live joining us here in the Playbook. Karen, I think that question was: let's say the Patriots get that top 5 pick, should they be thinking quarterback up high, or are there just too many holes that this team needs to fill for quarterback to really even be a thought? I would tell you that I would lean other than quarterback, but that's just me, because I don't think they're going to get the 2 guys that really might benefit them the most. That would be having one of the top couple of picks and being able to get either Caleb Williams, who I'm not sure is all of that. I've seen him play, and Drake May from North Carolina. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I think if they're not in the 1 or 2 hole, God, they could sure use a left tackle. They could sure use a receiver.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of good ones in the draft coming out.
Yep. I've heard already, my boy Mel Kiper has already said there are like 6 or 7 guys in like the top, 50 or 60 players, maybe the first couple of rounds, in terms of tackles that'll be available that are high caliber guys. And I'm like, okay, sign me up for any one of them. Sign me up for 2 of them.
Yeah, I'm with you, but they're like a day late, $1 short. They should have done that this past draft.
Sure should have.
And instead, they drafted every guard known to man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they certainly did. All right, so before we jump way ahead on that, because clearly there's a lot of football still to be played, even though I know that, it seems like all the questions that I've taken have all been about, wait, what do you think we got to do about the draft? I'm like, guys, it's freaking October. I realize that we haven't been in this position for 30 years, but at the same time, it's a long, long season. Based on your conversations with these guys, and listening to the coach and the players, they're getting the same thing, week after week after week. Is it even possible that you might see them turn around and give us, I don't want to say false hope, but maybe provide a little momentum to somewhere? Because it seems like I know most people I talk to. In fact, I talked to a couple of friends today, Karen, who said, I don't even know why they want to win another game this year because, even if they win another game, it's only going to postpone the inevitable. And I'm like, I just don't know that that's the attitude that anybody who plays professional sports really entertains. Unless you've been in a locker room and you've been in a huddle and you've gotten, hit over the head with somebody else's, forearm, I'm not sure that anybody else other than people on the outside think that way.
Yeah, I don't think that's the attitude now, for sure. But, you got Buffalo and Miami back-to-back. So you could conceivably be 1-7 at the midway point.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I think human nature kind of takes its course. And while the players will say all the right things, some of them, who are in the final years of their deals, you might, these guys might start thinking individually as opposed to collectively as a team.
Yeah.
By that I mean, do I want to get hurt and hurt my chances to get a big contract? So these are like external factors that I think come into play, John.
Mm-hmm.
Do I think it's right now? No. But if the losing continues, those type of things, I think, will enter the picture.
Do you see any scenario where Mr. Kraft would have to make a decision on Bill Belichick as the head coach of this team before the end of the year?
Wow. I've always said no on that. I don't think he would do anything in the middle of the season, no matter how bad they are. But if Bob is thinking about, Mr. Kraft is thinking about waiting to the end, there's decisions that have to be made. The trade deadline is coming up.
Yep.
And you have to really start thinking about the future. And if Bill Belichick is here, still coaching, he's the guy who's thinking about the future.
Yep.
If Mr. Kraft is deciding and knows already that he's going to be moving on, I don't know. Maybe you do make some moves.
If you do you think the Patriots could make a move right now before the trading deadline that would actually help this team long term? Would they unload a contract? Would they? What would they do if they should make one? Have you given that any thought yet?
Well, I just think whoever is going to be making such decisions has to decide. Do you part with several of these players who are going to get you something back?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want assets or do you want to hold on to these players, try to resign them for Bill or whoever is taking over next year?
Yeah. So fundamental decisions need to be made, and we're not even sure, fundamentally speaking, if anybody who's making these decisions will be around at the end of this year. And so that's why it's kind of like we're what are we doing? We're marking time. We're treading water. How many other adages can I throw out there?
It's not a good.
No.
It's not a good place to be.
Yeah.
For them right now.
No.
Because ostensibly they're not going to get to the playoffs, and it's like, so do you let it play out and then hope you get a good draft pick? Do you try to win at all costs?
Yeah.
It's just, as I said, it's just not a good place for them to be in. And also, especially if a coaching change or more is in play.
So let me ask you this then. What would be an ideal scenario? Short of winning every game that's left on your schedule, which is not going to happen, but what would be an ideal scenario for this team over the last, let's see, they've got 5, 6, so they've got 12 more weeks to go.
Well, John, again, it depends on what your outlook is.
Sure.
If your outlook is blowing it up and starting anew with a new coach and a new regime, you might want to think that getting the first or second pick would be the optimal thing to do.
Yeah.
If you're thinking that you're going to stay with Bill and maybe have a new GM in the house, you also have to start thinking, who do you want to keep? To turn this thing around going forward, or to help turn this around forward, going forward.
Right.
So, not easy, John.
No, it's not. I know that on MassLive.com this week you had a piece about Dante Scarnecchia, who I actually had a nice visit with a couple of nights ago at a charitable function in downtown Providence for Providence Rotary and the literacy fund that they have there, and Dante we're making small talk. Nobody really wants to talk shop when you're trying to enjoy an evening out, but he handles it so well. And so I said, so Dante, how much money will it take for you to come back and serve as a consultant for about a month, just a month? And he looked at me like I had 3 heads. And I know you talked to him this week, so maybe you can give us what your impressions were from him on how things have transpired and whether or not the problems that the Patriots have could be considered a quick fix.
Well, I actually didn't talk to him per se. I talked to David Andrews about him.
Yep.
About him and what's made him such a worthy entrant into the Patriots Hall of Fame. So, I'm not sure. I'm not even sure what he would say at this point. But I think he would I think what David said kind of would echo what he would say, and it's like you just have to keep pushing forward. You just have to take it one day at a time, one game at a time, and put your best foot forward. And you can't quit. Quitting is not part of the solution. So, I think he would do his best to at least get his guys, if it was the offensive line, into a more functional outfit.
In talking with him, I'm sure that you some of the answers that he's giving were going to be somewhat predictable because nobody's going to get thrown under the bus here. How much blame, if there's blame to be assigned here, how much blame should be also pointed at the fingers of some of these positional coaches like, Adrian Clem in the offensive line, Troy Bound at wide receiver, the problem areas that this team is continuing to have? Should there be, or does that still lie at the top of the heap with Bill Belichick?
Yeah, I also think, Robert Kraft has to think about that.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Because unless he's dictating to Bill, you have to change the coaches here, and here.
Yep.
And Bill's obviously not going to want to do that.
Right.
So
nope.
Bill's going to want his people.
Absolutely, 100%. So what should be in your thoughts here on the team going into the Buffalo game for this Sunday? I mean, quite frankly, it should be a mismatch. I know that the Patriots are probably the biggest dog they've been at home in maybe 30 years. Going into this game, and yet they've got their own issues. They're banged up on defense. Opportunity continually presents itself, I think, for New England, but Patriots can't seem to get out of their own way for the mistakes that they're making. I don't even know if this should even be part of the discussion because what we've seen thus far doesn't look to be possible. But, dare I say, if they play a mistake-free game, is a game like this winnable?
It is, but I think Buffalo would have to be a co-conspirator.
Okay. I happen to agree with you 100%. I mentioned that to our friend Vic Carucci a little while ago. I think the only way Buffalo keeps this a game and potentially fumbles his way is just like that, by shooting themselves in the foot and fumbling it away or throwing picks, or something happens to Josh Allen and
Right.
that may be the case.
But I will interject here, though. I think since the Bills basically trounced the Dolphins a few weeks back, I think they've gotten a little full of themselves and have tried to coast through games and then pick it up when they had to.
Mm-hmm.
If they have that, they still have that kind of attitude. That, again, I don't know if Vic said this to you, but it's just me watching them from afar.
Sure.
But if they think they're they can turn it on when they want.
Yeah.
Maybe that gives the Patriots some hope.
Maybe. I'm not. Yeah, I know. Right. I'm not chuckling at you. I'm chuckling with you on that one. You brought up, and I brought up Dante, and I know that you talked to David largely, I'm sure, because Dante is going to be inducted into the Patriots Hall of Fame this weekend, and we still don't know whether or not that he's even going to be outdoors or not because of the forecast of rain right now on Saturday. But Dante will still be a part of that, along with Mike Vrabel this weekend. That's the ceremony, and everything will be taking place. So. Dante Scarnecchia has meant a lot of things to a lot of people around here, and I know everybody seems to think that he would have, a quick fix answer for, I guess what ails up front or whatever. Why do you think, and maybe you can help us out with some of the impressions that you got from David here, but why do you think Dante was such an effective coach to the point where he's considered a vital member and a vital cog in the Patriots organization for decades, not just years, but decades? Why is that, do you think?
Well, first and foremost, he was a terrific teacher. He was very detail-oriented. He was a stickler for the fundamentals and for the techniques that he believed in, and he taught them. And, you'd put him into practice, and players would see, hey, yeah, he's right. I'm 275, and I can take on this 325-pound guy and have success. So, he was very, he was a disciplinarian. He was strict. He was tough. But the players respected him because, again, he's had success teaching linemen his way. And, whether it was making a wrestler, Stephen Neal, into a very good offensive guard, or Trent Brown having a Pro Bowl, all-pro caliber season in 2018, a year I thought he was legitimately the best left tackle in the game. Mm-hmm. When you do things like that, that kind of cements your reputation. And even David Andrews was an undrafted player, and he's one of the game's better centers. So, and it comes from, again, all of the fundamentals and techniques and drilling and working hard that, the tone that Scarnecchia set for them when he was the coach.
You mentioned his ability to be a teacher. And I really believe that's what Bill Belichick has surrounded himself for a number of years with, is guys who could teach. And yet this team is one of the most undisciplined teams we've seen in decades. Why has that happened?
Yeah, I don't know. It's stunning to me just how far they've fallen in that respect. Because Patriot teams, the reputation, they don't beat themselves. But of late, that's all they do, beat themselves. And it's what they are is unrecognizable to people who have watched them over the years. Mm-hmm. And yes, Tom Brady was a big part of that, but still, in the big games, in the close games against the better opponents, they weren't making the mistakes the other teams were.
Right. And the shoe is now on the other foot.
It certainly is.
Big time. Hey, Karen, thanks for a little time today. It's always appreciated. Good to talk to you.
All right, John. Take care.
You got it. Karen Guregian, at K Guregian, Guregian, on X, if you want to follow along. Now, of course, with MassLive.com, longtime writer for the Patriots, covering from the Boston Herald as well. But Mass Live is where she gets it done now. Hey, Bridgestone is the official tire of the New England Patriots, proud to partner with Sullivan Tire, New England's headquarters for quality Bridgestone tires. Visit sullivantire.com to find a location near you. Our friend Howard in Connecticut checks in on email. He says, to say this has been a disappointing season to date is the understatement of understatements. Yes, I am disappointed in the team, especially the O and their lack of ability to compete. I thought with Bill O'Brien joining the staff, things would only get better. Boy, was I wrong. I think the first thing they need to do is stop the hemorrhaging on the offensive line. If they can do that, I believe they can field a more competitive offense. Let's start there and work up from the Grand Canyon they have dug themselves. The problem with that one, Howard, is they're just not going to be able to do that this year. They still haven't played a single down of football with the offensive line they thought they would have to start the season with because of injury. He says, I, too, don't want Parker on this team anymore. It was a perfect pass by Mack, and he simply dropped it. It happens. Own it. Strive to get better. Catch it the next time Mack throws to you. I go into every game thinking they can win the game regardless of how improbable the experts say that is. So this week, Pats win 20-19. The O will build off the scoring last week and get to the 20-point plateau to win the game. It would be a first, well, a second, because they did that week 1 against Philly, right? Wishful thinking, maybe. But that's why I'm a fan. So is Eldred in North Carolina. Hey, Eldred, you get the final word today. What's up, buddy?
Hey, how you doing, Mr. Legend? Doing all right?
It's all good. Where are you at today?
I'm at the shop trying to get my truck fixed.
Uh-oh.
The air hose line bracket broke.
Oh.
And, yeah, so I'm riding down the highway like I ain't got no brakes.
Oh, no. Yeah, get out of the way.
Yep,
oh, my God.
Yep.
Holy.
Yeah, lucky, you know.
What do you do? What do you do when that happens?
Pray. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
oh, my God. So you basically just have to kind of slow down and run it off the road, don't you?
Yeah, lucky for me, I was slowing down, and it was running to a red light on 321 in Gastonia. Had to go to York, and
Dude.
It just stopped at the red light. So I had to pull my brakes back out.
Oh.
Let the pressure build up a little bit more.
Yeah.
Then limp over to the 85 ramp. Then get outside and broke the airlines a little bit, got it running, and dropped it off. Then they told me to go straight to the shop. I said, you ain't got to tell me that but once.
Yeah, no
but
kidding.
Really, you ain't have to tell me that either.
Right. Oh, my Lord. That is amazing. That is absolutely amazing. Well, I'm glad you're safe. I'm glad everybody else in your way is safe, too, by the way.
Yeah, me too. Can you imagine running down the highway about 60 miles an hour with 55,000 pounds of concrete on you?
No.
Manhole?
No. No. Good Lord. Think about the momentum. Oh, my God. No kidding, right?
Oh, yeah.
Gravity would be your worst enemy on that one.
Yes, sir.
All right, buddy. So what are your thoughts?
Getting back to football?
Yeah.
My thoughts? I'm like, well, I've been saying for 15 years, but you can't get rid of him as a GM unless he goes as the coach, too.
Well,
and
I would say that's to be. I'd say that's to be determined. I've changed a little bit of my way of thinking on this one. I think Bill, and again I'm speaking for him, and I know I probably shouldn't, but I think because he's such a competitor, and I really believe that he would like to leave this team at least in decent shape for the next era. And he knows that right now, if he were to leave, that would not be the case, that we're going to be cleaning up his mess. I think that he would consider at least some kind of a co-relationship in terms of building the roster if he is left to do nothing but coach and see if he can't turn it around before he decides to call it quits.
Well, Mr. Legend, I'm with Paul.
Okay.
He's too much doing it his way for 60-something years, or how long he's been coach. I know he's 71
yep.
or whatever.
Yep.
And he thinking it's coaching, not the players.
Yep.
But like I told y'all a while back, and y'all laughed at me then, you can be the greatest coach in the world, have the greatest playbook, whatever. But if you ain't got the players or that alpha dog to run that, you're just a coach holding a clipboard.
Yeah, and you know what? And first of all, I would never laugh at you. Second of all, I understand. No, never. I'd never laugh at you. I respect your opinion immensely, and the fact that you agree with Paul, okay, that's fine. I can live with that. I just think that because of the relationship that Bill has had with Mr. Kraft over the years, I really believe that they can talk almost as friends. I don't know that this is necessarily a boss-employee relationship, and because they both bought into this thing, I think there could be a sense of reasoning that he would consider here in order to, hey, let's leave here on a good foot. Because frankly, I think you should have the opportunity to break Don Shula's record here. Let's turn this around, but I got to do it this way. Bill, are you in or are you out? And to me, the only way that he says no to Mr. Kraft is if he has another opportunity with another team where he can run the entire ship. If he does that, then more power to him. Go off and take it and right off into the sunset, and they completely flip the page here.
Okay, I can see that, but I can't see that because if he goes somewhere else, I know his track record of winning games in Super Bowls, that's what everybody's gonna be looking at. But the other part you got to look at, you had number 12, and we had a disagreement with this too a while back. But I'm telling you, every time a good quarterback, a Hall of Fame quarterback leaves the team, I said that before too. I don't care if the Hall of Fame coach is there. It takes 5 to 10 years to rebuild to get back in compliance. Cowboys, Steelers, Dolphins, 49ers when Wash left. It took Mooch and Young 4 years. They had the same team to win the Super Bowl. I keep throwing that up. Everybody said, "No, we got the greatest coach of all." Okay. You see what the last 4 years without Brady.
Well, that's true.
And like I said before, it's the talent level. I get mad at Bill because the players are there that you need. Everybody keeps saying, well, we never had a chance. Bull crap. They're right there. He go get Joe Blow from UConn University and think he played NFL and play. And other guys that you really interviewed and brought to it that you wouldn't see on pro days, you just look at them like a whiff. And then they come back and whoop our butt every time. Oblate did it a couple of weeks ago. And I'm like, he was right there, but you took a strange. Pickens for Pittsburgh, Watson for Green Bay. You had a bunch of but that's just this year's draft. I'm going back to last year. You could have linebacker, you could have Walker, the outside edge, you could have a bunch of guys. But you did. You went and did this, did that. And Harry was the biggest drop, like I said before, biggest bust thing, When you needed a wide receiver, you had all the rest of them. A.J. Brown, you had D.K. Metcalf, the one I wanted,
I know.
And they come back and they kick our butt no matter who we play. But his way of thinking is not just coaching. And I agree with you. Paul Brown need to leave. The secondary coach need to go. And Clem, I have to give him at least another year. If that line still looks the same way because he inherited a mess, he didn't get some of his guys. And O'Brien, I give him a pass because he know what he needed. Bill probably didn't go that way. He went defense. The best draft pick he got so far is Gonzalez, and he got hurt. White, okay, but he's not producing like we hope he would.
Right.
Judon gone, and everything just falling apart. This team got to be rebuilt all over again, including Mac Jones. Replace him.
Yep.
He broke it. Because I'm like Evans. I sit there, watch the game. I sit back, go on YouTube, rewind, look at everything.
Yeah.
Feet awful. Guys wide open, and he's just scared.
Yeah.
And I looked at that replay the other night with Philadelphia and the Jets, and I remember how their quarterback used to look when they played us, all scared, whatever. But that game, he's smiling, he's laughing. Wilson, he's smiling, he's laughing, and he's driving right down the field. But I know he got weapons.
He has some weapons, and he's finally learned. And I would tell you that I think, maybe before he got broken, that Mac was also capable of that if he had weapons around him. So the reason that Mac is broken is not because he forgot how to play quarterback. It's because he's been abused, by the opposing teams because he's got nobody blocking and nobody catching.
Yeah, I understand that. I understand that part too. No, I fought Bill and everybody else for that too, but I also fought Matt Jones. So somewhere down the line, You got to take their little pouty boy outfit, panties off, and put the big man draws and play ball.
I agree. I agree with that. Sometimes, you have to. Yeah, sometimes you do have to suck it up. But Eldred, I would tell you in this case, I don't put any blame on Mac. I just don't. And the reason that I don't is because he's fighting. He's swinging with a short stick. He's swinging with a short stick. He can't reach the fastball, so to speak, because he's got a short stick. So, I mean, give him a regulation bat. Give him a mallet. Give him something. But he doesn't have it.
Give him Thor's hammer?
Yes, give him a hammer. He doesn't have it. He's got nothing.
But a couple of those games, like I said, he could have stepped up when he, made a couple plays. He panicked. If you look at Mac, even in the game.
Hey, he had a perfect pass. He threw a perfect pass this last Sunday to Devontae Parker, and he dropped it. And if Parker catches that ball, they got a chance to win that game.
They get a chance to win the game. I understand that, too. My question is this, Mr. Legend. I've been asking this for 10 years, even when Brady played.
All right.
Okay, 15 years.
All right.
Why were you so deep to the slowest guy on the darn field, and you got two speedsters right there that can get in 4.2, 4.3 speed, and at least try it with them, at least one.
Yeah.
But you go with the slowest guy, and he was open right. The ball hit him in the hand. I just turned the TV after that. I'm like, but damn, we lost.
Mm-hmm.
It hit him in the hand. It wasn't no fingertip.
Yep.
Man, he should have caught that.
I know.
And if he'd have kept running, he'd have ran him all the way to the goal line.
Yep.
But like I said, I can understand why Bill, as the GM, would give him and Juju 3 years extension, and Myers over there making you look like crap now.
Well,
he's scoring left and right.
That's I know, and that's something he obviously is going to have to. He's going to have to learn to live with and try to adjust from. Eldred, we're out of time, my friend.
Yes, I understand. But you have a good one there, Mr. Legend. Always good talking to you.
Thanks, buddy, for the phone call. You be safe out there in that truck now.
Yes, sir.
All right, good. Our friend Eldred in North Carolina with busted truck, get out of his doggone way, right? Brought to you, of course, today by the Massachusetts Office of Travel and Tourism. Great memories are made in Massachusetts, no matter how you choose to make them. Indoors or outdoors, scenic views, city vibes, solo or family style, whatever moves you, whatever the season, plan your perfect Massachusetts getaway at visit-ma.com. Our thanks to Vic Carucci from Buffalo, Karen Gregian, Mass Live, Russell Baxter, the pro football guru himself, Evan Lazar, Patriots.com, for joining us. Thank you, Faith. Way to hang in there. Thank you. We throw a lot of different things at her, but she handled the curveball pretty well today. That's good. Let's hope Marine gets his tooth fixed. Oh, my God, poor guy. Got two little ones to take care of at home and everything on top of that, right? He can handle it. He's tough. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you. St. Pat's time, St. Pat's channel next week, 2 p.m. Eastern time, right here on Patriots.com radio. Next Wednesday, we'll recap Buff. We'll look ahead to Miami, if you can call it that. See ya.
Thank you for downloading this podcast. Subscribe on Apple, Google Play, and everywhere else you listen. Like the show? Please rate and review us. Listener comments and ratings help keep us high in the podcast rankings so new listeners can find us. Be sure to check Patriots.com for more news and more podcasts.